A lot of children and young people living under COVID-19 lockdowns, social restrictions and school closures are dealing with feelings of anxiety, with many at risk of lasting psychological distress, including depression. It's normal for children and young people to feel worried or anxious at the moment. We've all experienced sudden changes in our lives and routines, and we're living with lots of uncertainty about the coming weeks. For some young people, the coronavirus pandemic may also worsen or trigger anxieties they were already struggling with. Joining us again this week is Dr Nokukhanya Khanyile, who will share some valuable insights on how parents are able to deal and talk to their children about what's going on. Welcome back to The Loft, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Express. How are you guys?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us again. I know we had you last week, just speaking about family dynamics and how people are dealing within the home. But now I just want to take this conversation a step further. I mean, how can parents address the reality and fears about COVID-19 to very young children?
So it's very important that people understand that children are smarter than you think. They can see that you're worried. They know that there's a reason that they're at home and nobody's sharing that information with them. And they can pick up little changes, even in your mood, that you might not be aware of. It's important to make sure that you clarify and explain what's happening to your kids in a way that they can understand. So, for example, instead of using terms like COVID-19, you can explain to them that there's a bug that's going around, and it's very easy for people to catch it because it goes from person to person by touching, sneezing, or if you don't wash your hands properly or sanitize your hands. You can explain to them that it's important that we stay indoors to help keep other people safe and prevent them from getting the infection or the bug, because it can make them really sick and they need to go to the hospital. It's also important to just share with them how you feel. Say, mommy or daddy is very scared right now because, we're not sure if we're going to have enough money because we can't go to work, and we're not sure if we'll be healthy. So it's important that you teach them how to take care of themselves, but also use appropriate terms and don't mislead them into thinking that there's a false future that you're not even sure about.
Wow, so this is the perfect balance we find between not babying your children, but also not being too harsh and extreme. It's that fine line. So children might also be feeling anxious and in distress about all the pressure that's amongst all these changes. So what advice is one able to give to such children, and how are we able to handle the situation?
I think it's very important that you make sure that your children are able to communicate. A lot of homes, you'll find children are either told, they're overreacting, or, they mustn't be such babies. And, kids really want to be big. They want to grow up and be strong. But they need to be encouraged either by you speaking about your own feelings, or you just checking in with them and saying, how are you feeling today? Do you miss your friends? Because a lot of the time, that's the big thing that they miss, is playing with their friends or playing with their cousins or family members that they haven't been able to see. And that can really impact on them. Ask them, are they sleeping okay? Do they feel like they're still eating fine? What are they worried about? What are they excited and looking forward to? Still give them that hope, because while they may express their sadness and their worries, they should also be encouraged to express things that they're excited about doing, even while staying at home. For example, helping out, or even getting to play more with your mom or dad, or even siblings at home.
I quite like this technique because it goes above and beyond just checking on your child, but it reminds them and instills a habit in them to always self-introspect. How am I feeling right now? What does this mean? What happened for me to trigger this feeling? I like that. It's a healthy technique and quite a practical tool to move going forward, even post-COVID-19. Now, negative feelings brought on by the pandemic can lead to a higher number of mental conditions in children, such as anxiety or even depression. So how is one able to assist a child's social skills and social learning during the pandemic and lockdown? I mean, you've already spoken about not being able to go outside and play.
So in the home, a lot of parents might be working from home. So it's kind of difficult because you want to balance working and doing all of your work commitments, but also keeping your children stimulated and entertained. A lot of a nice tip that some people were saying is, we're going to practice. Mommy is going to work maybe for 45 minutes, and during that time, give them a game, a puzzle, something that's educational for them to do and work with. And after that 45 minutes, if you can, spend 15 minutes with them and really engage with them on what they were doing. Really, give them some praise, because they're not getting as much attention as you would think they're getting on a normal day, because they're usually gone the whole day and then they come back. Now they're with you, you're probably annoyed, you're probably frustrated that they're always wanting attention and you just don't have the time or the energy. So that's the one tool you could use. Another way that you could really make sure that and pick up any cues for mental illness is understand who your child's baseline personality is. Ask them what they like or what they don't like. Ask them about their favorite foods, and you'll notice that children who start to experience mental health challenges will stop doing the things they like. They'll stop eating their favorite foods or watching their favorite programs, because they're starting to feel a sense of low mood, a sense of, anxiety. Maybe they even communicate to you and say, I really just don't want to be here anymore, etc. So it might sound scary at first, but when you really go into it, you'll find that they open up a bit more, and they'll be a lot more open to talking about this.
It's very important to know your child, know who you're dealing with, know what's normal for them and what's abnormal. Love that piece of advice, Doc. So if a child had lost a family member or a parent due to COVID-19, how is this child able to deal with the grief? And how will the child's guardian be able to approach the child in dealing with the emotion?
Again, it's very important to speak to children and tell the truth, because they know that something is not being told to them, and they can kind of pick up that, people are covering up things and not telling them the whole truth. So it's important to share the information and say, this person had this bug that we had spoken about called coronavirus, and it went into their body. It caused a sickness and they needed the hospital, they needed medication, but unfortunately, their body wasn't able to fight the bug and it made them die. Don't use words and euphemisms such as passed away or went to another place, because children have imaginations that will blow your mind. So they will go to places, and for example, some children, when you say they've passed away, some children will say, did they get an A? Did they get 70%? Did they get 100%? It'll confuse them. So use clear terms such as they died. And if you want to even say they went to heaven, if that's appropriate for your religion, you can use those terms. Also for them, grief, they also move through the stages of grief, but it might not be as clear for us. So if you see that they're acting up, if their mood or their eating changes, again, knowing your child's baseline personality, allow them those moments to grieve and allow them to cry if they need to cry. Don't tell them to hold on to it, because children internalize and they don't want to make you sad and make you mad. But I think it is important that they share that emotion and they cry if they need to, because that's the best way for them to deal with their emotion and that grief.
Letting it out and not bottling anything up. I quite like that. Expressing yourself and doing so healthily, in a very healthy manner. Now, lastly, Doc, there has been an increase, unfortunately, in domestic violence cases within South Africa, and children are exposed to this, and even witnessing such scenarios, they might go through lasting psychological issues. So how can a child get out of such situations or even protect themselves from getting harmed, not only physically, but also emotionally and mentally?
So for young children, it's quite difficult because they don't understand what's happening. They see, one person hurting the other person, and it's quite confusing, quite traumatic for them. Some may rationalize it in their minds, and some even make up stories to say, this is a boogeyman that's coming to hurt someone, or, they have their own ideas about it. If you are taking care of someone who is young or is in a home like that, it's important, number one, to realize that it's not your fault. There is no reason that there should be any abuse of any kind in a household. There's nothing that you or the child did to deserve that abuse, and it's important that you get help. If you can get out of the household, go to your nearest hospital, police station, fire department, because as healthcare professionals, we're obliged to help you because your life is acutely in danger. We might not necessarily admit you to the hospital, but we will be able to assist you. Secondly, is if you have a family member that's nearby, you can usually call them up and ask them to come and fetch you, or especially especially now during lockdown because your partner's with you, change the name of an emergency line to a name of a friend that you might have.
Wow.
So that if you are in trouble and you phone them, that your partner won't get mad because they won't see that you're phoning the police. They'll think you're phoning a friend and use code words that are clear enough. So, for example, say, "Hi, I'm having a really bad day and I'm really sad. Can you talk?" And then move to another room so that your partner doesn't think that, you're calling for help. And clearly communicate your address where you are so that they can come and help you. The last thing is, if you have children, if you are a child who's in a home like that and you are watching this, it's important to note that it might be dangerous for you to just leave because you don't have anywhere to go. Again, please try and find either a family member or some local authority that's close to your clinic or your hospital and let them know that you are in trouble, you need our help. We are obliged to help you. And I know by saying this, it might increase the numbers of admissions to hospitals and casualties, but we'd rather you be safe than you be sorry.
Let's rather save lives than put it all at risk. Thank you so much, Doctor, for breaking down such a sensitive subject and making it quite baby-friendly. We appreciate it.
Yeah. I love the babies, and I would do anything for them. But thank you so much, Afternoon Express. I love you guys.
Always helping us grapple with these tough subjects. Now, some families have gotten separated from each other geographically and cannot reach home owing to the lockdowns or quarantine. This has stranded and isolated many children's parents, siblings, and even close relatives like their grandparents. Students can't fly back home, and some children have their own parents, grandparents, or family members diagnosed and hospitalized. This has terrified the young children and set off multiple panic attacks. To contact a counsellor at the South African Depression and Anxiety Group between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday to Sunday, call 011-234-4837 or on their 24-hour helpline on 0800 456 789.